Let's talk about Dora and the Lost City of Gold, which is a live-action adaptation of a very long-running Nickelodeon cartoon, which I was not looking forward to in the slightest. I have no knowledge of the cartoon at all, never watched an episode and thought...
Your kids didn't watch Dora?
No, they're too young for it. They've missed out. They're more number blocks age group. But then I noticed in the credits, it's directed by James Bobin and co-written by Nicholas Stoller, both of whom collaborated on the Muppets reboot from 2011, which is just magnificent. So this suddenly, within the opening 30 seconds, turned around my expectations entirely. And I have to say, happily, those new, wildly heightened expectations were met.
Wow.
The premise of the original show is that there's this 7-year-old girl with a pet monkey and a sentient rucksack who likes to go and explore and find things out about the world and then relay these facts to the audience at home and then get them to chime in. And the film actually very cleverly begins with this brief prologue showing exactly, possibly for the Dora purists, I don't know if there are Dora purists out there, but it shows this is how it would look were we to do it completely literally. So we have this 7-year-old kid driving around in a Jeep with a rucksack that's talking and a map with a face on it and, this kind of fox sneaking around. And then the film quickly shows that this is actually just happening within Dora's imagination. It then fast forwards 10 years. And Dora's now 18 years old, 17 years old. She's played by Isabella Monet, who was a kind of a breakout star from that film Instant Family. It was a fostering comedy that was released, and again, nobody had any expectations for it, but she was excellent. It also starred Mark Wahlberg and Rose Byrne.
It was last year, wasn't it?
It was
very recent.
It was quite recent, and she was the eldest of the 3 kids who was fostered. And again, a potentially thankless comedy role, but she was really kind of charming and appealing and perky in it. And again, she brings that same kind of comic sensibility to this. It's decided by her parents who have raised her in the jungle. Her parents are played by Michael Pena and Eva Longoria, that she has to go and experience something of normal teenage life. So they decide to send her to the city to spend an extended amount of time with her cousin. And here's part of the tearful pep talk that she gets on the way to the city.
Take a seat, young lady.
What's happening?
Come on.
We're gonna have a talk.
About the dangers of the big city.
See, you're gonna be invited to some parties. And some of these parties, they're called raves.
The people there are called ravers?
Yeah, and then they love glow sticks and candy necklaces and hacky sacks. The music it sounds like this. Go get it!
Yeah, it's very aggressive. Very aggressive. Yep. Okay.
Well, be careful. That's what we want to say.
It's quite funny.
Actually, it is funny, yeah. And actually, the film that goes on for much, much longer. That had to be cut for reasons of not just filling everyone's ears with batik, batik, batik. But it goes in the film. They go for it, and it's very, very amusing. Anyway, she gets to the city and she is very quickly kidnapped by baddies who take her and 3 school friends back to the jungle and want to use them to reach the ancient city of Parapata, which is what her parents have been searching for, and then strip mine it for all of its treasures. And so the idea is that Dora has to get to the ancient city of Parapata first and make sure the bad guys don't make off with all the loot. As I said, it is extremely funny. And part of the reason is this great script that has that same kind of Muppets comic sensibility. I mean, really, Isabella Monet is funny in this in the same way as like Elmo from Sesame Street is funny. And it's just the kind of total guilelessness and daftness.
That's not a comparison I was ever expecting to hear.
Why?
A real person and Elmo.
But it has that kind of Muppety sensibility running through.
But she's a real person, isn't she?
Yes, but she's kind of, I mean,
Is she Muppety?
She's got a sort of she's got quite big eyes, so I suppose maybe yes.
Okay.
But it's that kind of, totally over-exaggerated guilelessness and charmingness that is just, I think, whatever your age, it kind of cuts through any defences or resistance to this kind of comedy you might have, in the same way, of course, as that real Muppets did it in the Muppet film.
Real Muppets.
Real Muppets rather than people who are sort of have a Muppet-like quality. I mean, I'm saying this as a compliment. It's to be like...
No, it's very sweet that you think that out there may be real Muppets.
The Muppets are some of the great comedic performers of our time. I think to be likened to one is actually pretty...
No, it's great. It's just there's a difference between that and faux Muppets and, fool's Muppets.
No, right, okay. Well, I'll take that as read. Okay, I don't know about full Muppets, but so there's that. That's the part of it, and the other part of it is
full Muppet jacket. Right. That's it. I'm just saying that. Anyway, carry on.
That sounds terrifying. But the comedic chemistry between the four kids. It's kind of like The Good Place in that you have this not exactly conventional, stereotypical roles, but four characters that bounce off each other really, really well. There's Madeline Madden plays this Tahani-like figure who is the queen bee at school, who's completely horrified to be alone in the jungle without public conveniences. This leads to this incredibly elaborate poo-based comedy set piece. Now, normally, I'm with Samuel Johnson. I think incredibly elaborate poo-based comedy set pieces are the last.
You're not talking about the bear, are you?
No.
Yeah,
no,
the other
the
kind.
bodily function.
Yeah.
The last refuge of a scoundrel. But actually, this does it incredibly amusingly. And it's a large, extended poo-based comedy set piece that earns its keep. I don't remember the last one of those ever that I saw it in. I'm normally resistant to that in the extreme.
You say large poo-based comedy. I mean,
Okay, so large is a descriptor for the comedy set piece.
Thank
Okay?
you. Thank you very much
Just
for
to clarify that
Yeah,
point.
thank you.
So yeah, that's a big kind of funny set piece. One of the Nicholas Coombe, who's the kind of nerdy type, he sees quicksand in the jungle and he's like, I thought that was just something that was in video games. So there's this very, very kind of funny, droll stuff that works very nicely, sparking between all these characters. There's also a beautiful lack of faffing around. They just get on with this adventure. So they go, like, there's kind of bridges, there's lava, there's this recurring gag about jungle puzzles, which I thought was very, very funny because, of course, in films like Indiana Jones and Tomb Raider and Jumanji, there's this sense that ancient civilizations love nothing more than to build a big room and put like Rubik's Cubes in the walls or the equivalent of like turny stuff in the ceiling that you had to suss out. And they're all going around looking for the next jungle puzzle to be solved. And this excitement around jungle puzzles becomes the very funny running gag. The film is like an adventure playground. You see these kids kind of swinging around and having fun, and you're having fun with them. And as I say, as something that I had zero expectations for whatsoever, it delivered in a way that it's like, dare I say, an ideal school holiday film. The educational, content is fairly low, although there's a little bit of, undermining of colonial received wisdom about whether artifacts actually belong in museums or whether they should be left where they are. But generally speaking, it's just fun, and it's fun executed with total kind of flair and competence throughout.
I only saw the trailer, actually, and it looked a little bit Tomb Raider, it looked a little bit Indiana Jones, a little bit Goonies, and I wasn't quite sure about it, but actually...
That's
you've sold
honestly,
it to me.
once you see the Muppets DNA in it...
Real Muppets.
I mean, I'm not casting sort of aspersions. The Muppets, the kind of, the writing DNA and the directing DNA.
Yes.
Then it makes sense.